Oh, okay, sorry. Good evening. I'd like to welcome you all to our regular school committee meeting of September 11th, 2013. I know people are coming in, but I would like to just take a minute, considering the date, if we could just take a minute for a moment of silence in view of September 11th and for what we've all lost as a country. Thank you. Thank you. Our first item of business is roll call. Linda, everyone is present. Our second item of business would be the items from approval. Superintendent.
Good evening, everyone. There's 3 items on the agenda for consent agenda: the approval of the minutes of the August 28th regular session and the August 28th executive session, and warrants, payroll 828, SPED 101, grant 401, revolving account 202, L003, L004, CF04, and SEC 01.
Thank you. Okay. We'll take the warrants out. I'd entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes of August 28th, regular session and executive session can be for release. Mrs. Burns.
I make a motion to release August 28th regular session and August 28th executive session. Make a motion to approve.
Okay, do we have a second? Mrs. Carroll. All those in favor? Unanimous, Linda? Warrants, payroll warrants of August 28th, 2013. Entertain a motion to approve the payroll warrants. This is
I make a motion to approve warrants for payroll week ending August 28th, 2013. SPED 01, G401.
Oh, just the payroll.
Just payroll, sorry.
Just the payroll. That's okay. Do we have a second? Second, Mrs. Burns. All those in favor? 5 in favor. Abstain? 2 abstain. Mrs. Kane, Mrs. Carroll. Thank you. And the payroll, the last warrants, the SPED, and I'll entertain a motion to approve those warrants. Yeah.
Which ones?
The last line, SPED,
Okay.
G4, R2. Okay.
Do you want to do all of them?
Okay, Mr. Mullis?
Motion to approve SPED 01, G401, R202, L003, L003, L004, CF04, and SEC01.
Excuse me, Jill.
Okay, yes.
I'd appreciate if I could vote, participate in the vote on those that I don't have to abstain from.
Right. Oh, definitely.
Are they all? They're.
Mr. Ruggiero, are they all SPED related?
The first one and the last one.
Oh, I see what you say. Take those out? You want me to take those 2 out?
So that I could participate in the others?
Oh, sure.
Please,
Oh, sure.
thank you
Okay.
very much.
It's different every single time here, so
Sorry.
we're going to have to work on this. All right. So let's do everything except the 2 SPEDs. Okay. Mr. Mullis, is that all right with you?
It's all right with me.
Okay, and do we have a second? Okay, Ms. Broussard. All those in favor? Unanimous. Okay, and then I'd entertain a motion for the SPED 01 and the SEC 01? Dr. Quick.
Oops, sorry. Motion to approve warrants SPED 01 and SEC 01.
Okay, Dr. Quick. And do we have a second? Mrs. Bonish. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, that would be 6 in favor and abstain. 1 abstain. Okay. Thank you. I feel like once we've gotten through that, we've gotten through. Okay. All right. It seems like quite a while since we've had our student representative report, and we're so glad to have Jessica Kasparian back with us.
Thank you.
And so delighted to have you, and we're looking forward to your report.
Thank you, Mrs. Kane. First off, we want to recognize Ms. Peters, our new interim principal, who's doing a great job and who helped me form this list of events that I'm about to tell you tonight. So what I can tell you so far is that the first football game that will be held in Wilmington is against Winchester, and it's tomorrow night, including the band. The senior parent coffee hour was this morning, and that focuses on college readiness, including programs that we use such as Naviance and the Common App. Meet the Teacher Night was last night. The homecoming dance is Friday. Auditions were held for the fall production Arcadia on Monday night. And the ice cream social is for freshmen, will be on September 25th. And Jay Atkinson, the author of Ice Time and Legends of Winter Hill, that all grades had to read, came on Tuesday, and he's coming again tomorrow for the juniors and seniors. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions or comments? Once again, we're off to really a great start here. Lots of things to keep you busy in case you were resting too much over the summer. The high school has plenty to do. So, Jessica, thank you so much. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you for having me.
Okay. The next item of business, the superintendent's report.
There's 7 items on the agenda this evening, but the first is one of my most favorite, and that's the introduction of the new staff. I want to commend the CTLs and the elementary principals, as you're going to see in a minute. They really did an outstanding job because I think we got the best and the brightest in Wilmington this year. I'm going to ask each person that I call up just to stand. Are you going to film? And I'll tell a little bit about that person. So I'm going to begin with Thaddeus Bell, our new music teacher at the North Course music teacher. Thaddeus graduated from the New England Conservatory of Music with a Master of Music in Vocal Performance and undergraduate from Clark University. He was a long-term sub last year and is also a vocal and jazz piano teacher, and he also performs on his own, and we are thrilled to have him at the North this year. Welcome, Thaddeus.
Thank you.
Lisa Bertolami. Lisa Bertolami is a Wilmington resident who is kindergarten teacher at Wildwood. She has a Bachelor of Science degree from Bridgewater State and a master's from American International College. She was an ed assistant at both Boutwell and at Wildwood before taking on the kindergarten job at Wildwood this year. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you.
Holly Bushy is an LPN at the West. She went to Shawshene School of Practical Nursing, has an LPN diploma. She worked as in the Woburn Nursing Center in Woburn last year, and we are thrilled to have her. Welcome.
Thank you.
Carlos Louis Brown is our new CTL for foreign language, 6 through 12. He has a Master's of Arts degree from Salem State, or a Master of Arts in History from Monmouth University, and a Bachelor of Arts from BU. He was a Spanish teacher and world language department chair at the Mystic Valley Regional Charter School. He's come over to public schools, and we're thrilled to have him. He just got back from a trip to Portugal. No, Spain, where he was godfather to a new little godson. So we're thrilled to have him. Roseanne Clark, 1-to-1 aide at Shawshene. Is she here? Oh, okay. Linda Cornell is the new reading specialist at the Woburn Street School. Linda has a Bachelor of Science in Elementary Sped from Leslie and a Master of Education in Reading from Salem State. She comes to us from the Salem State Public Schools, where she was the Literacy K-8 and Title I Director. Welcome.
Thank you.
Katya DeStefano is an Italian teacher at the Wilmington Middle School. She has a Bachelor of Arts in Communication with a minor in English from Suffolk. She was a teacher's aide at the North Street Elementary School in Tewksbury last year. Welcome.
Thank you.
Our own Wilmington graduate, Amanda Donahue, is come back from Regis, graduate of Regis College, and has come back to teach math at the high school. She did her student teaching in Bedford, and if you all recall, many years ago, I actually gave her the Regis Book Award, and that's what got her interested in going to Regis, because I'm an alumni of Regis, so we are thrilled to bring back our own.
Thank you.
Jennifer DeSalle, math teacher at the high school. She has a Bachelor of Arts from the College of Atlantic, and she has graduate coursework from BU worked for the Humane Education Coordinator for the Massachusetts Society of Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, and previously a science teacher at UMass College Prep Program. Welcome. Liz Ehrman is our new strings teacher, and she has a degree, a Master of Education from New England Conservatory of Music, a Bachelor of Music in Performance, and a minor in Music Production from Berkeley College. And she comes to us via Virginia, where she was orchestra director in Fairfax County Public Schools. And she is now off to her first strings attached meeting, I understand. Welcome. Kristen Forcina, long-term special ed sub at the middle school. She has a Bachelor of Arts in English from BC, a Master of Business from BU, and a Master of Education from Merrimack College. She's a Wilmington resident and was a long-term substitute in Linfield, so we're thrilled to have her. Bonnie Benson Garassi, SPED Reach program at the West. She has a degree, Master of Science in Special Education for severe students from Bay Path College, a Bachelor of Arts in Government, and a minor in Economics from Tilco?
Smith College. And then my early childhood is from Post University.
Post University, and Smith College, she has her bachelor's. She student taught and was a support instructor in the Lexington Public Schools before coming to Wilmington. Welcome. Daniel Hakam is our new elementary health teacher at Shawsheen, and he has a Bachelor of Science in Health and Physical Education with a minor in coaching from the University of Delaware, and a Master of Education in Educational Administration from the University of Scranton. He was a phys ed and wellness teacher for the Collaborative of Educational Services in Dorchester. Welcome.
Thank you.
Lauren Kelly Joseph, grade 4 teacher at the North. She's a Wilmington High graduate and has a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology from UMass and a Master of Ed in Elementary Ed from UMass. And she was a grade 3 teacher in the Grafton Public Schools before joining us. Welcome. Larissa LaFosse, newly engaged this past week, I understand. Congratulations. Grade 1 teacher at the Shawsheen School. Larissa has a Master of Ed in Curriculum and Instruction with a specialization in literacy from Lesley University, and she was a dual major in Bachelor of Science in Elementary Ed and Bachelor of Arts in Sciences and Psychology at Salem State. She comes to us from the Lawrence Public Schools, where she was a grade 1 teacher.
Thank you.
Welcome. Catherine Mayella, who's not new to Wilmington, she's been a substitute for us for many years, is new grade 5 teacher at the West. Catherine is a resident of Wilmington. She has a Bachelor of Science in Business from Worcester State and a Master of Ed from Salem State University. Kathleen McNamara, art teacher at the West, has a Bachelor of Arts in Art History from University of Mass Boston and a Master of Ed from Lesley College. She was an interim middle school art teacher in Tingsboro last year. Welcome. Brianne Milton is our district school psychologist. She has a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology from Colby Sawyer and a Master of Education in School Psychology from Plymouth State. Last year, she was a school psychologist in the Fall Mountain Regional School District in Charlestown, New Hampshire. Welcome. Sherry Morandi, grade 1 teacher at the Woburn Street. Sherry has a Bachelor and a Master's from Merrimack College, and she was one of our Merrimack Fellows last year, and we're thrilled that we're able to hire her this year. Welcome. Sarah Passanelli is a kindergarten teacher at the Wildwood School. She has both a Bachelor of Arts in Liberal Studies and a Master of Education from Endicott College, and she was a fellow in the Beverly Public Schools last year. Welcome. Mark Resnick, physics teacher, Wilmington High School, MIT Bachelor of Science in Electrical Science and Engineering. He student taught in the Boston Public Schools, O'Brien School of Math and Science. And I'm going to embarrass him because I told him right before the meeting last week our crossing guard was out. He had a surgery, and I was out waiting for the police to take over, and I was crossing some high school students, and one of the students said, "Hey, Mrs. Benton." I said, "Yes." He said, "Did you hire that physics teacher?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Good job." So that was pretty impressive. So welcome. Amanda Scott, new social worker at the high school. She has a Bachelor of Arts from the University of New Hampshire and a Master of Social Work in Clinical Social Work and a minor in Children, Youth, and Families from Boston College. And last year, she was a treatment coordinator of youth villages at the Germaine Lawrence Arlington Mass School. Welcome. Kristen Spinoza is the new SPED teacher for the Strides program at Wilmington Public Schools, and thank goodness for FaceTime, and because she was working in California and was actually interviewed through the internet, and we're very fortunate to have her. She has a Bachelor of Arts degree in sociology and a minor in psychology and education from UMass Amherst, and a Master's of Education from Lesley College. And as I said, she was a special ed teacher in Torrance, California, but we're thrilled she decided to come back to Massachusetts. Welcome.
Thank you.
Laura Taylor, .6 French teacher at the Wilmington Middle School. She has a Doctor of Jurisprudence in Law, from Suffolk University, attended Political Science Institute of Paris, France, a certificate in Advanced Graduate Studies in International Science from American College of Paris, France, Teacher Certification Program in Teaching English as a Foreign Language, Bachelor of Arts in French from the University of Kansas. And she was a French teacher in the Groton Dunstable Middle School last year. Welcome. Miss V, Amy Rakitissis. I hope I said it right. Close. Very hard. SPED preschool teacher at the Boutwell, Bachelor of Science from Penn State in Special Ed, and a Master of Ed in Special Education from Vanderbilt. Last year, she was a special ed teacher for the Wellesley Public Schools. Welcome. Jennifer White is our new district data specialist. Jen has a Bachelor of Arts in Intercultural Communications from American University and a Master of Education in School Psychology from Tufts University. She was a data coach in the Boston Public Schools last year. We're thrilled to have her. We have two interim principals that are here this evening that you all know, but they have new titles. So we have Hope Doran from the North and Linda Peters from the high school. Now, did I forget anybody? Who did I forget? Because I didn't get your RSVP.
Sorry, I didn't know about it. Mr. Apolloni had told me. It's Paula Fairweather, Ed Assistant at the Shawsheen.
Paula Fairweather at Shawsheen is an Ed Assistant for the Pathways Program. She has a Bachelor of Science from Salem State and was a one-to-one long-term sub last year at Shawsheen, and that's how we got her. So, welcome.
Thank you.
Melanie Patterson. I'm the new librarian at Shawsheen.
Melanie. I apologize. Melanie is the new librarian at the Shawsheen School, and I was over there on the first day of school, and the library has been transformed. I walked by, and there were all these square colors which I knew were for students when they came in to sit down. The big, bulky shelves that hid everything are gone, and it's a very welcoming library. Melanie has a Bachelor of Arts degree in Sociology from Regis and a Master of Library Science from Simmons and a Master of Ed from Salem State. She was student taught at Danvers High School and previously was a library and media specialist in the Andover Public Schools, and we're thrilled to have her. Thank you. Class of 2013.
As I'm listening to Mrs. Benton read your backgrounds, I'm looking at you and thinking, how on earth at this young age did you manage to accomplish everything you did? It's incredible. We're thrilled to have you. And I speak on behalf of the committee. I think that it's the most interesting night to find out, where your background is and how many connections there really are. And it's wonderful to have people from town to know that that's still, you could live in this town and still have a job in the schools. That's exciting, and it's exciting that we have so many people from so many places. So thank you very much, and I think we have a special little person here with us tonight. Do you know who I'm talking about? He deserves something good. He has been wonderful. Thank you for being
Thank you,
here.
iPhone.
He has one up on me already. You'll find out over the years, I'm the one. So, do we have any other? So thank you so much. You don't have to stay. We're glad to have you, and hopefully over the years, we'll get to see you in some of the work that you do. We'll be around and visiting, and so thank you for coming. We appreciate it.
Thank you. And there goes our audience. I have 6 other items under the superintendent's report. I did include, because we never had another meeting after the spring sports ended, a spring sports report on how the teams did, and congratulate all of them for their successes. As you know, the state instituted a new concussion law last year, and now we have to report the number of concussions to the state, so I included the report in your packet. I was asked about, are we higher, lower than other districts? The information did not have to be in until August 31st, and I tried the DPH today to see if I could get you the list. It's not out yet, but I will get it for you. Actually, the Globe ran an article about 3 weeks ago, and we're in the bottom third based on the school districts that they of concussions, lower numbers, based on what they had.
And just viewing what you had provided us with the additional information on what surrounding areas, it does look like Wilmington has had almost, in some cases, half the concussion injuries per student population than most of the surrounding areas that we are.
And, you know, kudos to Ed Harrison, because he was ahead of the game in purchasing the most expensive football helmets that have the special, the ones that the pros use. So we've been using those for 3 years, which has been helpful to us as well.
Anyone else? Mrs. Bonish.
I just want to say something funny. When I read this, attached is the number of concussions that were reported last year, and I opened to the page and I saw 52. I was like, has my son just died? I have to say that was very scary, but then I realized it's at the bottom here.
I was a little bit surprised girls soccer has more concussions than hockey or wrestling, for that matter.
Yeah.
Me too.
I hope someday we go to a helmet policy for this. The soccer has the most.
It's pretty surprising. It's more than, I mean, it's a little more than half of what football has.
So the good news is we have been chosen as one of the many middle public schools in Massachusetts to participate in PARC this year. And as you know, the commissioner is going to be deciding over the next few months whether we are going to adopt PARC testing. PARC is the Partnership for Assessment of Readiness for College and Careers. It's made up of 20 states, chaired by Commissioner Chester. They're developing common, high-quality English language arts and math tests for grades 3 through 11. And they're going to be piloting, doing field tests this spring, and we have been chosen. I just gave away all my, can I borrow this one second? We've been chosen, Woburn Street, grade 3, 2 classes. We'll do a paper version of the math test. There are 2 types of performance-based assessment and then an end-of-the-year assessment. They will be doing the performance-based assessment. Weston Intermediate Grade 4 Mathematics will be doing, 2 classes will be doing performance-based assessment online. Wilmington Middle School Grade 7 Mathematics, 2 classes will be doing performance-based assessment online. The 8th grade middle school will do ELA online, end of the year. High school 9th grade will do ELA, 3 classes online, end of the year. And the 11th grade high school ELA, 4 classes online, the performance-based assessment. We do have the capability of and the bandwidth to administer these tests online. As you know, we'll need to use the labs to do it. The state does have a opt-out item but the only way we can opt out is if our school closed, or if we don't have that grade, or if we don't teach that contact area. So we will not get individual student results on these tests. I am allowed to opt out of MCAS at a grade level if MCAS are offered. I do not want to do that. I don't think it's a good idea, because this is the first year with our district-determined measures in our new teacher evaluation, and we're using the MCAS data as one of the many measurements of growth. So we would not have that on 2 grades of students at the Woburn Street, and so I don't think that's a good idea. The question has come up, what if a parent refuses to have their child take it? They keep their child out. I mean, I hope that doesn't happen. We do have the capability, which I'm pleased about, that anyone in grades 3 through 11 can do the practice tests online. And my concern, and I want the students to have the practice test, because if you look at the sample online that Parks test, it's not intuitive. So you really have to learn what boxes to click. Students really need to practice that, because it's not something that you can just, with a paper and pencil test, that you can easily fill in the blanks. Roughly 87,000 students in Massachusetts will be taking part in this pilot. 800 schools will administer computer-based tests, and close to 500 schools will administer paper and pencil tests. The performance-based assessments will take place from March 24th through April 11th. The end of the year is from May 5th through June 6th. I will be getting directions from Pearson, who is the creator of the test, as to how to go about choosing the classrooms in each of the schools that are labeled. They're going to let us do it. It's going to be some sort of formula.
Mrs. Broussard.
I think I heard you say that we will not be given, or parents won't be given, individual scores for their children. Is it because that they won't know that their classroom has been chosen, or can they request those reports?
No, I can't even request reports. No one's getting the raw data. They're using that to, actually, I think what they're doing is using it to test some of the questions, so that's why we're not going to get, like when they originally did MCAS, there were test questions that were used that we never got the results of, because they wanted to reuse them. So when you looked at even if a student's roster, there were some questions that were blank. That's because it was a test question.
Okay, Mrs. Burns.
I've got several questions.
Okay.
Okay. I just so that I'm clear, I know that in grade 3 through 8, that if they take the performance test or the end of the year, they could be exempt, which you've said that you're not going to exempt them. There's a third piece to this PARC test, which is the oral speaking and listening component. Although it's mandatory, it won't be, I don't understand the fact that it won't be a part of the, when this does roll out, the overall cumulative performance grade, or I'm not sure how they're phrasing that. Do you know I know everything's still preliminary in many of these facets, but knowing that it's mandatory and not knowing how is it going to be executed, and at what point will it be executed?
Good question. In fact, I asked that on this conference call on Monday, and they have no information yet to
because results are supposed to be technically, once we go live, so to speak, the results are supposed to be available by the end of the school year, which I presume is June 30th? Is that what most people consider the end? Okay.
Yes.
The other question I had, I didn't know if you had any additional information, was the science piece. Is that going to go away for at least the initial onset of this PARC test? Because I know that they're still working on the Common Core requirements for it. So how is that going to just be kind of on hold?
It's on hold until the Common Core is adopted in science.
Okay. And when is that supposed to take place? Is that going to has to take place first before we can accept? I'm assuming PARC can be accepted as the new assessment tool?
Good question. I don't know the answer to that. I can find out.
Okay,
But
because I know there's a lot still up in the air, and I didn't know if you heard anything new. The other aspect that I wanted to speak to you about is if you heard any word as to whether or not, when this does go live, if schools will be given some sort of funding for technology in order to meet a broader spectrum. And I don't know if any talk or...
I'm going to give you my own personal opinion,
Sure.
because I see this as another unfunded mandate from the state.
Which is what I was afraid of, too.
Wilmington is one of those school districts that unfortunately is not eligible for the grant money that goes out. I'm sure that, I mean, they're saying there's supposed to be some money for technology, but we're not hearing anything about it. They are not talking about, I mean, one of the things that, actually, this is going to seem minor, but one of the things that we have to have is headphones for every student who takes the test. So, and they told us to, invite the kids to bring them in 2 days before the test. Now, how you manage that when you have, in one building 500 to 700 kids taking a test is going to be a nightmare as far as I'm concerned. I have to say that as an educator, I'm not thrilled about this at all. But I don't want to penalize our students by not doing it, because I don't think that's going to help us out. I think having the students do it, we're going to learn something from it. I am concerned because these are limited. There's only 2 hours allowed, and as you know, with MCAS, it's unlimited. And although many superintendents voiced on the phone Monday at the conference that that's not fair, that, because we have witnessed students taking an entire day to finish an MCAS test. And because they had all that time, they performed proficient. And the pressure of a 2-hour time limit, I think, is going to be a detriment to some students. I think the accommodation piece is not clearly outlined yet, and I'm very uncomfortable with that. And I guess I have to think back to before MCAS, when we were doing the pre-MCAS tests, where we learned an awful lot, along the way, and that we're just going to have to, do that as we go. But I think it's putting undue pressure on school districts like Wilmington, who cannot afford a one-to-one device program and cannot afford to have the number of devices needed to properly do this. I mean, when we have to go to all of it, I mean, it's going to be a nightmare. And we can, because of the number of classes we're doing. Neil and Kate and I sat down to outline the whole process, and we have enough of computers to run the high school piece in here with the netbooks, and at the north and the west is being tested this year. We just replaced all new computers in their lab. But I mean, this was the presentation that they had on Monday, and it is just overwhelming because take a look down there. Now you think, okay, I can have my class, bring classes in to do that. No, we have to separate all those computers. We have to put kids back to back. I mean, the directions are ridiculous. They're ridiculous. So it's going to be...
So any talk about maybe...
Mrs. Bernthal, can this be your last one, and then we'll let other people talk?
Of course, I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, finish that one, and then, because Dr. Quick went to ask.
Oh, I apologize.
I'm sorry, I made you forget it.
I didn't know if there was maybe any early discussion about whether or not the state enrolling this out would do two things with doing more paper assessments and every year kind of minimizing that and bringing on the technology piece so that school districts might be able to make a transition to the ultimate. And the other aspect is the graduation piece, which is making, not sure how that would fly in the process of this transition. I think it's,
Okay, 10th graders are not affected, I mean, they're not being tested. As far as your first question, and I know the answer to that, and I'm sorry to say that the state is going to charge us if we opt for a paper and pencil.
Are you
So we
kidding?
will have to pay for the paper and pencil tests.
I'll buy the pencils if that helps. It is.
Well, I think you got to work with the association, I know we are, because it's going to be a nightmare.
I think so. I think what's already started to come through the association with people talking back and forth, it's really important that we keep up on that discussion. Because we don't vote on this, correct? Is that correct? We're just being
Correct.
informed. Okay, Dr. Quick?
Well, one of my
Thank you.
questions got answered, but, so then I'm assuming from the way they wrote this, because it's supposed to be, build upon not build upon, but, a little bit more specific than just the MCAS. Is this something that they're looking to replace the MCAS with?
Yes,
So it's for
down
just.
the road, it would replace the MCAS. And actually, this was part of the requirement for the state to get the Race to the Top funds. Now, you recall, we're not a Race to the Top school district, so we didn't get any funding from the state, but was part of the requirements. I mean, I think it's interesting because our commissioner chairs the committee on park, but has not, I mean, our spring conference got up and said, I'm not ready to adopt this. I want a rigorous test, and if it's not as rigorous as MCAS, then we won't go with it, so. We all know about as much. We learn each day.
Okay, thank you.
Just
Mrs. Broussard?
one last question. Once we make a decision on which classes will be part of the field test, how do we anticipate communicating to those parents?
Oh, I will send home
We'll send
a
a letter
letter explaining.
explaining
Yes,
what-
yes, yes.
Thank you.
I will have a lot more information as we go forward. I will be breaking the news, well, for the staff who isn't watching on TV tonight, they will be getting this information Friday in my newsletter, and the principals will be getting it all Friday as well. Christine McMiniman, way back last year, said, I know we're going to be chosen. She was right.
Thank you very much.
If anyone receives any information through MASC or through some other organization, feel free to just pass it on to us. We don't discuss it, but we just pass it on, we'll discuss it at the meeting.
Okay, I'm glad, some good news. If you recall, back in April of 2012, we had a coordinated program review, and we just finally received, if we did our business this way, we would not have jobs, our English language learner reports. And I want to commend Susan McDonald, our head of ELL, because we only had 2 partially implemented. All of the rest are fully implemented. And actually, the first one, which was the, if you recall, we had an increase in ELL students, actually right when we had the visit. And you approved hiring of a half-time ELL teacher to come on board, so now we meet all the requirements, so that's already taken care of. The other program area that we are only partially implemented, and I have to laugh out loud at this one, is the one that has to do with training. Our summer has been a nightmare of, I actually counted up today, 97 emails from the DESE regarding retail, which is the training that has to take place for all teachers who have ELL students. Literally, some weeks, right, Kate, we got 5 and 6 in one day. The state, in its wisdom, has decided that they are limiting the number of teachers that can be trained. Sue had already found 2 certified instructors who were willing to train our teachers this summer, and the state said, no, we had to wait. They'll start in October. So the long and short of it is now we have 14 teachers that are signed up to have the training starting in the fall, and then each year the state gives us an allotment of teachers that can take it. It's absolutely craziness from an administrative point of view. The good news is that Sue McDonald has instructors lined up, because we're hoping that the state will finally allow some of these districts who can do it to provide training so we can get more teachers trained. Teachers need to be trained in order to be recertified. That part's a good thing. I think it's a very good thing. It's just, Kate had to deal with all the unhappy teachers that didn't get into training and wanted to take it right away because they have EL students in their classroom. So this is going to take a while. But the good news is there are very few school districts in Massachusetts that can say they only had 2 partially implemented out of the whole report. And Sue McDonald deserves kudos for the program that she's put together here. So.
Fantastic.
In your packet is a preliminary enrollment. We will be doing the formal enrollment report after October 1st. As I told you at the last meeting, there is a huge flip in Wildwood. I've been here 10 years. I've never seen this happen before, but we actually had 17 students enrolled between July 15th and August 31st, which that's another class if we had known this ahead of time, but there's no space in Wildwood to add another classroom. The good news is you all support full-day kindergarten, and so we have full-day aides in each of the classrooms, so the ratio is not as bad as it seems. So we'll have the formal report at our first October enrollment meeting, but I just wanted to give you an overview of where we're at. Not far off. On the rest of the grades, we're not far off at all. And lastly is the spring sports report, summer camps report. As you know, we started the summer camps a few years ago in order to help out with our athletic account, revolving account, and because of the late ending to school, we had a late start for the summer camps. But the camps brought in over $57,000 in revenue. We made just over $22,000 in profit, which will go to the athletic department. I want to thank Ed Harrison and Paul, who had to deal with all of the money over the summer, for running a great program. The summer camps seemed very successful. The students enjoyed it. They were all held at middle school this year, and I think it's a great way to provide extra income and provide for 350 children who participated in the summer program.
I'd just like to mention to us to keep in mind that we wouldn't have had this, well, we may have, but not at that time, without Mrs. Benton looking at what was happening and seeing that really there was some private things going on, and the school was getting a gift from the people who were running these camps, but we weren't running the camps. And so she came up with the idea and came forward to us with it, and every year it's making a little more, and the fact is that the money is going to our athletic department, and so I think we owe Mrs. Benton some congratulations for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Is your thinking is that there was less participants because of the school year ending late? Is that?
Yes. The camp started a week later.
It was a week later.
Okay. I'm just looking at the difference from 2011, 2012. There was a big increase participants compared to and last year we lost about 52. What was the difference between?
Last year they only ran it a 4-day, and it didn't work. People were looking for 5 days. So we went back to the 5-day.
Okay.
Any other comments? No? Okay, thank you.
So state law requires that we hold a bully intervention hearing in order to report on our anti-bullying plan and to hear if anybody has any changes. And so I'd like to invite Christine McMiniman, principal of the middle school, who chairs the committee, up to the table to give us a report.
Good evening.
Thank you very much. I just want to take a moment to recognize 2 members of the committee that are here with us tonight. Peg Collins from CARES and Hope Doran, our interim principal over at the North. They are part of the committee, and I would like to take a moment to thank the other members of the committee over the past 2 years. As most of you know, Mrs. Carroll and Mrs. Burns have joined our group, and also Doreen Crow, Frank Ferrio, Mary Hood, Lisa King, Dennis Mahoney, Martha O'Brien from the CPAC, Maureen O'Mara, Rosangela Roman, and we've had parent involvement before as well from Caroline Fry and Brenda Mangan. And also I'd like to recognize Jean Noonan from CARES, who really helped us spearhead this committee. And I think it's very important to note that not necessarily in every school district do they have a centralized committee, and we have found that this has helped us greatly to keep things consistent across the district with regard to programming and education for students, with regard to information released to staff members, and also with regard to the collection of data and documentation. So this committee has really been a driving force to really make sure that we are in compliance with the law and that we are up to date with all of our documentation. So last year, actually, as a committee, we met and we did review the bullying prevention and intervention plan. And we felt, as a district, the whole committee with representation from all different levels and buildings, that the plan, the policy as a whole from the Wilmington Public Schools met our needs as a district. We felt that the reporting forms that we have and the information that we are able to share with staff, as well as the programming that we had conducted with students, really was meeting the needs of the district. And then along this summer came an amendment to the law, which now required us to sort of meet again and take a look at everything and make sure that we update our plan according to the law. And the major difference is that the reporting of bullying now can include an allegation, perhaps, that bullying may take place from a staff member. And that staff member could include anyone from a teacher, a paraprofessional, a cafeteria worker, a bus driver, a coach, an extracurricular supervisor, any staff member in the public school district. And so we then had to take that into consideration. We updated our plan according to the law to include that. And then what we did as a committee when we met recently is we made sure that our forms reflected that. So we did make one minor change, something for all of you to know. As a district, all of the principals and the heads of departments, including CARES, have a incident report form, an investigation form, and a parent communication log form for incidents that do result in bullying. So the incident report form has a space where it says students involved, or the student involved in the incident. And so we changed the wording there to reflect individual or individuals involved, because potentially it could be an adult, whether that adult could be a victim or perhaps that adult could be an aggressor based on the new amendment. And then the second little piece that we changed is underneath that it says name of student victim. So based on the law and how it reads, we just eliminated the word student and it says name of victim. So these forms will now be updated and shared with all principals and heads of department to make sure that they have the updated forms. And that was the pretty major change that we looked at for the plan itself. And then just in general, looking over all of the information that the committee has worked on, I mentioned the communication and the consistency. We also discussed current trends that are ongoing at the different levels. For example, we find at the middle school and the high school, of course, that the online piece, the cyberbullying piece, is highly increased with regard to reports. Those incident reports which are investigated don't always necessarily result in a true form of bullying, but they are all investigated. Additionally, it was noted at the recent meeting of the committee that at the high school level there's a large differential with regard to the incidents that is gender-based. And females seem to have a bit more conflict and/or power struggle, power differential between the target and the aggressor. And so that was noted as well as a trend. Overall, as a district, we noted that we have seen a decrease in the number of incidents of bullying. However, we feel that the students, with the education that they're receiving, whether it's how to report something, who to go to report something, or the fact that you don't have to be a bystander, that there is more reporting of incidents. So people, students, perhaps even staff are required to report, but students are feeling a bit more empowered in order to say something and report that to an adult. So that was a positive trend that we noted at the committee. One of the other things I would like to share with, obviously not just the committee but the public, is that on our district-wide webpage we have a number of resources there listed for staff, parents, the community, that share information about the definitions of bullying, which is also in the policy, but a lot of references and resources that parents and or staff or the community could go to. Very important to note the education, the prevention work that goes on in the schools. It's important to note that Laura Stinson has been also a champion of making sure that our second step violence prevention program, which started out at the middle school level, has now gone all the way down to the first grade, being implemented by health teachers, being implemented by classroom teachers, and at the middle school level being implemented school-wide. So that is a major accomplishment. And for those who are not aware, at the high school level, the bullying curriculum or the bullying prevention curriculum piece is delivered through the health classes. We also have programming, and that's one of the positives also of the committee, is tracking the programming that goes on district-wide, what's offered at the pre-K, kindergarten, early childhood level, what's offered at the elementary, all the way up. We've used a number of different presenters, from the traditional Academy of Karate to the Melrose Alliance Against Violence, to Joe Dirt, who some people may have heard of that particular presenter, who really gets the students at the high school level in the palm of his hand and makes sure they understand what it means and how to treat people with respect and with dignity. Last year, we actually, at the middle school for the 6th graders, had an opportunity where Melrose Middle School 8th graders, who were looking to present to another group, came and visited our school and presented an assembly on violence against women, which then turned into verbal abuse of women and the name-calling that goes on, and then to an overall discussion on bullying where 8th graders were talking about their own experiences to 6th graders. So it was quite powerful, the types of questions that the 6th graders were asking. So we do a lot of programming district-wide, and I just wanted to be able to share with you the work that has been ongoing with the committee, and the updates that we made to the plan and the updates we made to our form. And because perhaps I'm visual, all of the forms that we fill out are in blue, so that way it's easy that if a teacher has it at their desk and they know where to reach for it, or a staff member, they are available online as well. And we just make sure that people know the reporting process.
And
Thank you.
those reports follow the students from school to school, because I think the key component to this policy is repetitive, a pattern of behavior,
history,
not just one incident. So because of all the changes in the schools, we need to make sure that those are on record at each school.
Excellent. Do we have any comments or questions? Oh,
Just one quick question. Is it easy to find? I haven't gone looking myself for it, but is it easy to find on the website?
On the district website, it's quite easy to find the list of the resources, and the plan where they list everything alphabetically is right there.
Okay.
Some people call it a BPIP, but it's right there under bullying prevention and intervention. The title is quite long.
Okay. But what I'm saying is just somebody, if there's a parent who's trying to find it, if they see that, is it is it kind of self-explanatory, yes, for them?
Yes,
Okay.
the language is quite, there's a little bit of legalese, but the language is quite clear.
So they know exactly what it's
And then
there
that language is echoed in the handbooks as well with regard to the bullying, and then it refers to the district policy.
Okay, thank you.
okay, Mrs. Carroll.
They also have found, too, that not just the complaints is coming from the person being bullied. It's other people, like in high school level, saying, hey, come see this. I think someone's bullying this person. So with all their training in the lower schools, in the high school, they're using it. You know, so it's just not the person being bullied is complaining. It's other people are saying it. So that was very good.
Mrs. Benton?
I know we're going to talk about the new policy, but I think that the challenge for us is going to be the training for custodians and bus drivers, because in this system, custodians do not come into the schools. So that's going to be an interesting setup in figuring out how we're going to do that. If you recall, when the original policies came out, we trained, it was Marion Ryan, actually, that came out on opening day 3 years ago and did the training for the cafeteria workers, everyone. North Reading Transportation does have monthly training meetings, so we're going to have to figure out work with them. Plus, from my perspective, and I haven't spoken to legal yet, but there's going to have to be a fine delineation between what's comes under the harassment law, how one deals with a staff member in a contract versus someone who's not in a contract, and how this is all going to work out. Because I just, if you don't know, this was added on to the budget bill.
Sort of
That's
tacked
how
on.
it got passed.
Wow.
That's how it got passed. And I think it took me by surprise. I'm not quite sure. I was having a conversation with one of the school committee members a couple of weeks ago. The coach one is going to be an interesting one too, because what many of us would perceive as coaching techniques, someone could turn around and say is bullying techniques. So that's going to be an interesting one too. But I've already spoken with Ed Harrison. We're going to have to do some kind of training as well.
Wow.
So stay tuned.
Do we have enough trainings going on here?
Actually,
Excuse me.
Go ahead. Yes, Ms. Burns.
Just a quick question, and how is reporting being, I guess for lack of a better word, delivered? Are they coming to you? Are parents coming to you? Is there do you have an anonymous way people can report situations occurring? How is that being handled right now?
At this time, we don't have an anonymous way, but we get a lot of emails, phone calls, in-person visits. Sometimes a student, whether it's a bystander or an actual target, reports something to a guidance counselor or perhaps one of their classroom teachers that they feel a trusting relationship with. So it really does come in person from a lot of different ways. And the job of the staff member is to fill out the form that is the incident report, just to fill it out and complete the report. It is not the job of the staff to investigate. That is the role of the administrator in the building. And so at first, I think teachers might have been a little hesitant when the law first came out to report, but now they're very clear that they know they have to go to the form and complete the form so that we can act on it. So anonymous, no, but we do believe that parents, students, teachers all know the process to report.
Is that something that, granted, I don't think it's a rash decision, but is that something to consider?
It's something to think about. I saw the news, too, about the Boston Public Schools, and they had a texting hotline, and then people would go through a series of prompts to report something anonymously, perhaps.
The anonymous piece is, I have a real problem with it, frankly, any kind of, when I get anonymous complaints in the mail with no one signing it, and I'm a concerned, parent, but don't want to put their name to it, I don't put a lot of weight in those, because we have to do an investigation, and we need to get the information, and so I'm not a supporter of an anonymous. One of the things that, we have to be careful of, too, is anybody a student on an educational plan is making sure that that is addressed in their ed plan. But I don't know if you saw in the news this week, it's very interesting that, not in Wilmington, but apparently there are parents out there using that as an excuse to get into out-of-district placement. And I think we got about 5 different law advisories this week about, being very careful about that, and that's not the way to solve a problem. But I am not a believer in anonymous tips.
I think my only concern is that sometimes it goes on for a while because of fear of retaliation, and that's the only reason why I bring it up, to find out what the position or thoughts.
Do we still have the boxes in the schools?
I don't believe so.
No, okay, because we did that the first year, if someone wanted to.
Yeah, I just thought that,
The committee can look at, we look at that.
Of course, I
yeah.
just didn't know if
No,
there was
good
something,
point,
reason why.
I don't mean to elaborate, but one of the important points that was also brought up at the committee meeting is many times, both at the elementary level, intermediate, and secondary, many of the conflicts begin outside of school, whether it's electronically, whether it's perhaps in the neighborhood, and things do build over time, or they escalate quickly and they end up impacting the school environment. So we did notice that trend, that many times the beginning incident doesn't always happen in school. It's not to say it doesn't always. There are things that happen on the bus. There are things that happen perhaps in the hallway, but we noticed that trend as well.
And that's probably the most difficult. Those are the most difficult ones to deal with. I mean, we were involved in one all last year, and it was about incidents happening on the weekends, and, we had all of these provisions put in place at school to keep the 2 students apart, separate stairwells, check-ins with adults and all that. And then the weekend would come, and Sunday night, we would get emails about all these things that are going on during the weekend, and it's very hard to control that. And the police were involved. They tried to help us out, but, and I agree with the statistic, it's more girls than boys. That's what we've been.
Anyone who has a daughter knows. Interesting.
You may want to go to the policy first before the revolving account, since we're on it, have Ginny talk about that.
Yes, that'd be great. Do you mind if we're going to pull up the policy?
Since we're talking about it, switch the revolving account and revise the anti-bullying policy.
So in the packet, we have the revised anti-bullying policy that we're not going to vote on tonight, but we'll vote on next time. As Mrs. McMenamin already said, that the biggest change is about who the anti-bullying policy refers to, and it's not just for students anymore. Should I read any of it, or?
I don't think you need to
The
read it.
yellow? No? Okay.
To read it.
Okay.
No, I think because Ms. McMenamin mentioned
Okay.
the highlights of it all, and it is in the, it would be on line.
Okay.
So it's a first reading. We'll vote next meeting. Any questions or concerns?
I see it touches on, you touched on the different people involved and everything. Yeah.
Right.
That's good. Yes.
That's another thing too, is the administrators, if it's against an administrator, who's gonna handle it, so there's a lot of thought in everything.
Yeah, I think what we would use is our harassment
Language.
offices to do investigations, but that's going to be a...
It's a whole other issue. All right, any other comments or thoughts on that?
Just a quick question.
Yes, Mr. Lewis.
And this is just, I'm curious, if it's a state law, why does the Wilmington School Committee need to vote on it?
Because we have to vote on, because we're putting it into our policy, our particular policy book.
Okay, but doesn't the state law supersede any of that town? I mean, just curious.
If I
Mrs.
understand
Burns?
correctly, maybe Mrs. Benton can correct me if I'm wrong, we have to accept state law for what it is and federal laws, but we can also elaborate it per our district's needs. So we can take what the state gives us, and then we can add another provision on it if we feel it meets our needs in district. So, it's just an addition, an operation in suiting the needs and operations of our district.
Thank you for
know what I mean?
clarification.
I hope that
It helps.
That sounds good.
Just curious.
Very good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McGuinlan. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, Christine.
Thank you.
Thank you, committee members.
Yes, I'm sorry, yes. You too. All right. Our next item of business would be the revolving account.
Mr. Ruggiero has prepared a revolving account report, the expenses and revenues posted through June 30th, 2013. And he's
Mr.
can answer
Ruggiero,
any questions.
did you have anything you wanted to say ahead of time, or we'll just ask?
No, I mean, this is just the final report on revolving accounts for the FY13 fiscal year.
Very clear there. Does anyone have any question on any of them, or?
I just want to thank you for the clarity between the accounts and separating it. It's a huge help. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Does anyone have any, you're all set? Okay. Once again, an excellent report. Thank you, Mr. Ruggiero. All right. I think we're going to...
Yep,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go home.
We're going to, now we're going to have a visit from Mike Gilbert, the Mass Association of School Committees, regarding a superintendent search and how you set one up. And Mrs. Benton gets to go home early tonight and relax.
Thank you, Mrs.
Because
Benton.
tomorrow night, Mrs. Benton has done so much work. Let's hope it does not rain. Tomorrow night's rededication. Keep our fingers
Paul and I
crossed.
were out there today. Actually, the field is beautiful.
Great, thank you,
Thank you very
Mrs.
much.
Benton, we appreciate it. All right. What? No? Oh, I don't know if they can go. You know what, I'm gonna have Mrs. Broussard, would you like to come sit here during this time?
Sure.
Mrs. Broussard, no, you sit there, she'll sit here. Because of Mrs. Broussard's background in human resources, we had asked her if she would kind of take center action here on this, what we're doing. And I think, Mr. Mullis, if we could go around, I'm not sure how many of us know Mr. Gilbert. So if we could just go around and say who we are.
Hi, Mr. Gilder, I'm Andy Mullis.
Andy, how are you?
How are you?
Good.
Ginny Bonish.
Andy?
Kathleen Carroll.
I'm Julie Broussard.
Julie?
And Ginny is our secretary, and Kathleen is the vice chair.
Okay.
And Peggy Kane, chair.
Hi, Leslie Cook.
Hi, Liz.
MJ Burns.
Jay, how are you?
Good, thank you, Mike.
Okay. And then we have,
Kate Burnham, Assistant Superintendent.
Kate?
Paul Ruggiero, business manager.
and Linda is our administrative assistant. We wouldn't be able to do without. Okay.
Okay, I am Mike Gilbert. I'm the field director for the Mass Association of School Committees, who covers the north of Boston area. For those of you who don't know me, I have background as a school committee member on two different school committees. I've served in the school district of Holliston, Mass. For 9 years during the 90s. Got off the committee and moved to the North Shore, and spent another 10 years on the school committee representing the town of Salisbury at Whittier Voc Tech in Haverhill. So I have almost 20 years as a school committee member, and I've worked for the School Committee Association for the last 18 years, doing superintendent searches, policy work, and training school committees around the state of Massachusetts. So that's my background. So we're here tonight to talk a little bit about what the environment is in terms of looking for a new superintendent and what the process might look like for you. Peggy, were you here when Joanne?
I was.
Okay.
But there really
But
was
nobody
not a
has
search.
gone through a full search process?
No, not
Okay.
including myself.
Okay. So, so this is really new to all of you. I think the first thing that you have to figure out is what is it that you need in terms of assistance, whether you're going to hire a consultant or whether you're going to do this yourself with technical assistance. The School Committee Association provides technical assistance to boards that choose to do this themselves. But I would also say that there is work that needs to be done by staff and administration that when you do it yourself, that would take away from other work that they need to do as well. So it is an additional burden on staff to do some of the things that a consultant would do on your behalf. Sometimes committees have members who have both expertise and time, and they're willing to do it themselves, and that's fine. We encourage that where it's possible to do that. And certainly, again, as a member of the association, you are welcome to any technical assistance we can provide you as a dues-paying member of the association. Should you choose to hire a consultant, you would have to at least go out and get 3 quotes. Generally, the cost is less than $25,000, so therefore, you would not need to go through a formal bid process, but you would at least have to get proposals from 3 providers to make a decision about who the search consultant was going to be if you were going to do that. From a process standpoint, the first thing you're going to have to figure out once you've gotten beyond that point is, what does the community want? What does the school committee want in their next superintendent? Generally, most consultants will assist you in putting together surveys and holding focus groups or community listening sessions to gather information for you. That information generally becomes a profile, so to speak, of what it is that you're looking for the next superintendent, which, if you're using a consultant, would generally be used to whittle down the initial applications to a manageable number for the district. It would also be used to develop questions that might be asked at the first round of interviews, so that you're using your selection criteria, your profile, to rate paper packets and to get through the initial questioning of candidates and whittling them down to the 3 to 5 finalists that the school committee would ultimately be dealing with. One of the other opportunities for the community to assist in that process, generally there is a search committee that would conduct that first set of interviews in executive session, so that the names of candidates are still protected at that point. And their task would be to using the profile that you'd created, their task would be to ask questions of candidates and whittle that candidate, say, an 8 to 10 pool down to 3 to 5. Once that was done, those 3 to 5 would become public. The school committee would conduct site visits to the places where these people are currently working. The candidates would come here and visit Wilmington, and you would have final interviews with the school committee. The entire process takes 3 to 4 months. The marketing and advertising piece generally takes about 6 to 8 weeks. So there's a very quiet period. Once you figured out what it is you're looking for, there's a very quiet period where advertising and marketing goes on, and you start to get applications trickling in. I will tell you that superintendent candidates are just like high school students in terms of getting their applications in. When you tell a high school student they have a date certain when they have to get something in, it always shows up in the last date. Same is true of superintendents. Stuff always shows up on the last date. One of the things you want to think about is whether or not there are candidates internally who are interested and who are qualified. I don't think you have a long discussion about that until you've made that first decision about whether you're going to hire a consultant, and that second decision about what is it what are the qualities and skills that we're looking for. Once you've done that, then have those, you put it out there internally to see if there are any interested parties internally. You use that profile to interview those internal candidates and make a decision. If you were to hire us as the consultants and you then hired an internal candidate, we would tear up the contract at that point. One of the reasons we advise that is that oftentimes, superintendent candidates, they talk to each other. They may not tell each other where they're applying, but they do talk to each other. And if there's an internal candidate, people may shy away from applying. So if you deal with the internal candidates first, then if you have to go out and advertise and spend that money to advertise and do the work, then at least you know that you're going to get every applicant that you possibly can, because there won't be, at that point, there wouldn't be an internal candidate. The other piece is that, if you read Jim Collins's books, Good to Great, and some of his other books, the best companies, the best organizations in the world have a culture, and they've built that culture with people that are inside, and they elevate their CEOs from inside the company. So if you've got people that you've worked with, it's one of the things we have not done a good job of over the years in public education is succession management. But we need to look internally, and we also need to keep an open mind, because oftentimes the people who are administrators below the level of superintendent, you may not have heard their ideas in the manner in which they would normally be able to express them. When you work for a superintendent as an administrator, you have those arguments behind closed doors, you make those decisions behind closed doors, and whatever comes out is what the superintendent puts forward. I certainly know that I made a mistake once in my career as a school committee member by painting an assistant superintendent with the broad brush of his or her predecessor. And that can happen. So I think that's something you always have to keep in mind, is that the ideas that somebody else in the district may have, have not, you may not have heard those ideas yet. And I'll open it up to questions from you. Julie?
I have a question right off the top, and perhaps we're all thinking this. So I think we're still taking it in that we've heard the news of Joanne's news, but at the same time, from my own experience, I know how long this type of search can take, an executive level search. So from your experience, are we in the right time frame? School just started. If we start looking now, are these type of candidates available, or are we going to find that maybe we have to wait until after the first of the year and shoot for a July 1 start date?
You may still shoot for a July 1 start date. There used to be a season for this.
Sure, that's what I'm thinking.
There isn't anymore.
Okay.
We've done searches in the middle of the summer. Where, 20 years ago, if you told me we were going to do a search in the middle of the summer, I'd say, you're absolutely nuts. There's no way, nobody's paying attention. The search we did in the middle of summer a few years ago, we got 100 applicants. In the 2 years before, or the 4 to 5 years after that, I haven't seen that many applicants. So, you never know. I think that in today's environment, people who want to be a superintendent, who are thinking about it, are always thinking about it, and they're always working at it. So when an opportunity presents itself, they're going to present themselves as a candidate. The pool of candidates that are out there at this point in time is fairly slim. It is not a you won't see 100 applicants. You might see 40. And if we get 10 to 12 quality candidates, I consider that a good pool. So I think you are, from my perspective, this is the right time. This is the right time to get started. You will get yourself on people's radar fairly quickly. And at the moment, there's not a lot of activity going on. There may, 4 weeks from now, there may be a lot more, but There's not a lot of activity going on. A lot of places that, where people retired last year have interims in place this year, and so they should be starting their searches soon, but they haven't yet.
I have a quick question for you, and by the way, thank you for coming in and talking to us.
No problem.
You mentioned the association provides technical assistance in helping us. Can you elaborate a little bit on what technical assistance is?
Sure. The difference between a full-blown search and technical assistance is that if you pick up the phone and call me and ask questions and are looking for guidance, we're happy to help. There are some things we'll also help you with in terms of placing your ad. We use an ad agency for Ed Week, so we get a good placement of the ad in Education Week. So we can help you do some of that stuff. What we won't do is all the management of applications and hand-holding of candidates and being physically present during the process.
In your experience, do you know what kind of percentage of districts do use consultants versus doing it themselves?
I would say about 80% use consultants. The other 20% would do it on their own.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
I think we're stuck.
Everybody's still
I
stunned.
think we're still stunned.
A little overwhelmed. I mean, I would think that, I have faith that we can handle this. It seems a little scary right now. Believe me, I was a little shook up last week myself. But I do think we need to take a lot into consideration. We're all busy people on our own, and think about what sort of time that you have to commit to this. It will take some time and some effort. I think we need to evaluate all the resources that we have. As Mike suggested, maybe we can look at having himself as a resource and handle pieces of it, and then we do the rest. Do we say, geez, we can't do this? We need to consider having an outside consultant, but then we've got the financial piece. There's a lot to think about, but we do have to have a sense of urgency and start the process.
Go ahead. Oh, you're in charge.
Okay. Mrs. Dr. Quick.
This is probably a question for Paul. Let's say we do go with that, where does that come, what fund, where does that come out of?
We'd have to build it into our budget.
But, so is it just, yeah, okay. And you're talking about, you said about 25,000 is about the...
I would say a ballpark from a budgeting standpoint would probably be about 20 to 25. If you're using a nonprofit consultant, the consultant's fees plus advertising will run you about 15 to 17,000. And depending upon where you're advertising, the more you advertise, the higher the cost. Generally, when we do it, we would recommend that you would advertise in Ed Week, where you would get basically a month online from them and one paper ad nationally. We find that has the best bang for the buck, and that runs, think about $2,000 for that. A block ad in the Boston Sunday Globe would cost you almost $3,000, and it just doesn't have the bang for the buck anymore. And then you have other expenses that you need to plan for. You may not spend the money, but you need to budget for and plan for site visits that committee members would go on, and for candidates, if you have candidates coming from far away, it's usually on their dime for the initial interview, but the finalist interview is on your dime. So they would, they would have to, if they have to fly in, you have to pay for their airfare and overnight accommodations.
Sorry, Mrs. Burns.
No, I think considering what our immediate future is, especially with next year, knowing we'll be going to our second year of the teacher evaluations, we'll also actually, we won't have the superintendent evaluation to discuss, but between the high school building project, this park piece, I think that in itself, I think we all need to maybe think thoroughly what our needs will be for the upcoming year. Those things that are coming down the pipeline scheduled for next year, and trying to find, thinking about those qualities and, characteristics that we're looking. I think in the process, though, we could start, regardless as to where we might, before we make a decision as to what our best path would be, start coming up with criteria of what, kind of formulating questions to pose to the community, in surveys. Like, kind of start getting that rolling. Like, what kind of questions are we going to ask? How are we going to, survey monkey? I mean, we might be able to at least actively work on that individually and then come together and say, this is what I've come up, and to compile a list to that. I mean, that we can, start moving on. And then I don't know how everyone feels about proceeding as to what path, and I think I would prefer to think it over and weigh the possibilities, and, if we do decide as a committee to go the consulting, then we have to find, what avenue with that would be our best bet, who the consultant is, and that whole, I think you have I'm trying to articulate it, but I don't have the correct vocabulary or.
You're doing great.
So I thought, that might be a starting point for us to start kind of working independently and then coming together and that piece at least.
I have a homework assignment.
I'll post it on the web.
You don't know if there's someone inside too that would like it too, so I think that would be our first.
How is that typically done? Do we get approached, or do we approach others?
We probably have to post it.
Yeah.
That was one of my
Post it as a
You
job.
would have to post it.
Okay.
Yep.
First
But
internally.
I do think, that's sort of putting the cart before the horse. You do need to know what it is you're looking for.
Right.
Because you're going to have to, this really is not about comparing one candidate to another candidate. It's about comparing every candidate that you have to a set of criteria. And you've got to have the criteria first. We do have a standard sort of SurveyMonkey survey that we're happy to provide you with access to.
Mrs. King? One of the things, when we do this, I know it's open session.
Yes.
If we took 3 people and had them as can you do this as a subcommittee and have them gather what MJ was talking about and put that together, and you still post it as an open meeting?
Yes, it has to be an open
Yeah.
posted meeting.
Right, but could we do something like that? So I'm not sure when we can ever, we never go into executive session unless it's towards the end when it's with the money or offering a
yeah.
piece of their qualifications.
Again, most of this goes to professional competence. So the school committee's role here, almost all of it has to be in open session. You could have members of the school committee on a search committee, but you could not have a quorum of the, so in other words, you could not have 4 of you
Right.
on the search committee.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm still a little confused by this. I don't know if maybe she got the question answered, but I really didn't. So are you saying that if we got together tonight and said, okay, let's put 3 people together and let's, and they can come up with at least our kind of timeline, let's say, and okay, remember I just said a minute ago, we got some homework to do. They could at least be the group that says, okay, we want to go to you and see if we can get the SurveyMonkey, and then we'll go to hire the consultant, and then bring it back to the committee in open session and discuss it
Yeah, all of that would
further?
have to be, the subcommittee would have to deal with that in open session.
Right, but they
So-
can meet the
Yeah.
3
Yes.
people together
Yeah.
can meet and then bring that into open session. So it's not
Right.
just a free-for-all of
But it's
ideas.
a subcommittee, so it has to be posted and has to meet in a publicly accessible place.
Okay, got it. Great, thank you. I believe we did discuss having, there was a few of us that had offered to be on that committee, I believe. Am I correct on that? Okay. And I was one of them.
I don't get to sit next to us. I guess she was trying to tell you that. She wants to do that tonight.
Oh, is that,
Do you see what I mean?
is that something you would like to be involved in?
I would love to.
Thank you. And Manny, is that something you'd
Yes,
be
I would
interested in?
love to.
Okay, thank you. And I am interested. So we need to come up with a time that we can meet. I think that's the first start, is the three of us need to meet in an open session.
Yep.
Yes.
Public announcement, okay, and then we can start with that process.
And it has to be a public announcement, the subcommittee?
It has to be publicly posted meeting, so you have to
Do we post
comply with the open meeting law.
subcommittee meetings? No?
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
You go through the Roman House. I
Got it.
think April's back.
Okay,
Just tell April when it is,
okay,
when and where it will
I
be.
saw it today.
That's just it.
okay.
So probably need 48 hours prior to the meeting.
Oh, yeah, they do.
Post.
Oh, definitely.
Just
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Very good.
Did we get everything answered we needed?
For now.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
For
That's the
tonight.
thing.
Are you coming back next week?
We'll have you on speed dial.
Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate it, yes, this is a good start, it gives us a good idea what we can do. Good night, be careful going home.
Good night.
All right, you can stay there with me.
Okay.
All right, our next item would be public comments. Last one just left. That was it. Okay. Correspondence, could we run this down?
Absolutely.
And we had another one that I misplaced, so. Yeah,
Mrs. Kane, thank you so much for allowing me to attend the school committee meetings as a student representative of the high school. I hope to do it again next year. Also, thank you for my certificate and Barnes & Noble gift card. It was very generous of the committee. Hope to see you next year. Thank you. Thanks again, Jessica Kasparian. Nice.
Okay, and we do have a second one. When I find that, it's here. I'm not sure what happened to it. All right, any other correspondence?
No.
Future meeting dates, yes. Mrs. Burns,
I
sorry.
have an announcement to make that,
Oh, you know what, I realized the other isn't on, we had a mix-up, there wasn't another here, I'm sorry. It's my
no, I'm
fault.
sorry.
Go ahead, yep.
I just wanted to, I was asked to publicize that on September 28th, the Women of Wilmington and Lenny Malvoni, who is a part of the St. Thomas Men Group, will be holding a blood drive in honor, called Wilmington Strong, in honor of the marathon victims. It'll take place in the basement of St. Thomas's Hall between the hours of 9 and 2. So just as a reminder, September 28th, St. Thomas, 9 to 2, blood drive.
Great, thank you. And did we have, something was missed on here, so we'll put it on for the next time. But did we have a meeting of the policy subcommittee? Did you just want to
We
update on that?
did. We basically talked about that anti-bullying, the updated anti-bullying policy. And we set another meeting to talk about food allergies. So our next meeting will be about food allergies.
Oh, good, yeah, that'd be good. This is the first time this has happened. A couple of parents have come personally wanting to talk about that on our agenda, but we don't operate that way, so I sent it to Ginny, and so this is great. We'll see what's happening with the food allergy situation.
October 3rd.
Oh, okay, October 3rd, good. In the Roman House?
Mhm.
Yep, great, all right. Yes,
I have a WEF.
sorry.
That's
Yes.
okay, that's all right. We had our first, the Wilmington Educational Foundation had their first meeting of the school year, and as always, we plan on being very productive this year. But I did want to let people know that one of my favorite meetings that we have all year, next month in October, is it's the second Tuesday of the month. I'm sorry, I don't have the date in my head, but second Tuesday of the month. It's at 7 o'clock in the library, and we invite the grant. Excuse me? At the middle school. Thank you, Mrs. Kane. 7 o'clock, middle school library. And it's a great opportunity to see the grant recipients of our curriculum grants and our educator exploration grants come back and present to the Education Foundation to see what, where our money is going. So it's a great night, and please, we welcome you all there. We'd love to see you. 7 o'clock. Thank you.
Did we have any other meetings? Anybody else have meetings? No.
I went to the bullying, but we already covered that.
Okay, great, thank you. And when is the CPAC meeting? I didn't get notice of that. Did I miss it?
It's usually the third Thursday of the month.
I believe, if I'm correct, from the last meeting, I believe the first board meeting will take place in October. I believe. I'm not sure. I can't remember. It was back in May or June. And I believe they were going to, I can't remember if they were going to they usually do the open houses, cover the open houses, just to get their name out. But I believe they were probably setting it for October, but we could probably, at the next meeting, which is what, September 25th, am I correct?
Yes.
We could probably get confirm probably a date with CPAC. And
okay, we'll do that.
I can find out, too, as well.
Thank you, Mrs. Burns, that'd be great.
And last thing is October 8th.
October 8th is the, okay, October 8th. And the night before, because we meet on the 9th. Good. All right. This has been a productive evening. I would entertain a motion to adjourn. This is Bonish.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
And do we have a second? Well, everybody. Dr. Quick. All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.